What's going on, everybody? How's it going? Happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing great. Me and Douglas, I'm the author of the website Tech Interview Guide. Also work at Postman as a developer advocate, and I'm in kind of maker mode tonight. One of my kids, well, actually, both of my kids have to do science fair today. Well, not today. Both of my kids have to do science fair, and I've been helping them both with their project a little bit. And one of them needs some 3D printed stuff designed for what they're doing. So they're actually measuring CO2 and oxygen levels with plants, and the plant's sitting in a Tupperware dish, and the sensor that they borrowed from one of their teachers is really expensive, and we don't want it to fall in the Tupperware. And so I'm going to design, just really quick, just a very simple little platform that the sensor can sit on in the Tupperware dish, that it's not going to like fall over and get wet, because that would be bad. And so I have very, very scientific measurements. It needs to be as long as my finger down to the first knuckle long, and then deep, it's got to be 2 knuckles deep for the sensor thing to sit on. So I'm basically going to show you how I do my 3D design. I've also got a 3D sort of design for my basement that I want to go through and look at how to rearrange my basement a little bit down here. As far as like the workshop area and the workbenches, I'm going to be building another workbench. And so given the size of that workbench and the size of everything else that I need to do, like how am I going to lay all this stuff out down here? I've also got a new package to open up that I'm kind of excited to take a look at. And so I'm just going to dive in on some of that and do a little bit of maybe get into some Python. I want to do some stuff with the chatbot a little bit. So I moved the chatbot over to another machine. So it won't be running on my local system, which is going to make development a little bit trickier. Basically, I have to mount that as a remote drive in order to use the editor on my machine to save it on that machine and then relaunch it on that machine. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that tonight, maybe set up like network file systems and so on, all that good stuff. So thanks for hanging out. As always, you can interrupt me if you've got career questions, interview questions, stuff like that. Absolutely okay to sort of interrupt as we go. So let's dive in. I want to take care of that design for my kiddo first. Let's go make a new 3D design. Let me go share that screen. All right, so I'm just in TinkerCAD. I love using TinkerCAD. It's a fantastic little tool for this kind of thing. So the first thing I needed to make was my index finger plus the first whole knuckle. So it's going to be, we'll call it, let's do 11 centimeters by 6 centimeters, just to be safe. So 11 by 6. So all I need to do here is just pull down a box and click on a corner, and that exposes the sizes of what we need. And we want this to be 11 centimeters long. So this is all done in millimeters. And it was going to be 6 centimeters, so that'll be 60 millimeters. So that's roughly the platform, but I don't want to print that just a completely solid thing. There's no point making that thing completely solid. If I start drilling out things under here to be more of a platform, it will definitely use less material. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So we know that this is 100 by, or 111, or 110 by 60. And I want these platforms to be maybe a centimeter each. So if this is 110, then I want this one to be 90. And this is basically a hole that we're going to build in here. Now, I actually didn't track how tall this thing is going to need to be. I think by default it's 20 tall. Is that right? It won't even show me how tall it is. Yeah, it's so 2 centimeters tall, so just under an inch thick, which is fine. But I need this one to be slightly less than that. So again, if I want that to be, let's see, how thick do I want to make that? 0.5 millimeter would be more than enough. I mean, the sensor is like a couple of ounces, so it's not going to be like anything super duper heavy. So I want the height of this one to only be 15. And I want the length of it to be 90, which we've already got. And the depth, we're going to make it longer, like more deep than what the red box is. So I'm just going to make that 80 for now. So we line these things up. We're going to see that that overlaps. and it overlaps on both sides, and that's going to give us the start of our table leg. And I'm going to make a new copy of that, and this time I want to go less wide or less deep than this is. So this was what, 60 deep, and we want a full centimeter on either side. So this one's going to need to be 40 deep. So we're going to make this one 40, and then we need it longer than this one is. So this one's 110. So we'll make this one, say, 140. Now, as far as aligning these things, there are different ways that you can align things in TinkerCAD. You can use an alignment tool that says, like, center them all together. I like using the ruler tool here. So I can bring the ruler down, and I can say that the table is going to start at 0 and 0. So it's showing us in green arrows here how far away this is from the corner of the ruler here. So I can set this to 0, set this to 0, and now the rectangle is exactly on that point. And then I can line these ones up. So I know that I made this one a little bit longer, and I also know that it has to be a full centimeter that direction for the depth, and 1 centimeter in that direction. This one's going to be kind of the same, except this offset's going to go this direction, and this one is going to be -10. So now if we kind of look all around, we'll see that that's a nice little platform, and we've got our little 1 centimeter blocks here. So if I come through and I highlight all of these, and I use the group tool up here, then we just made ourselves a nice little table. Now, to print this like this, we would need a ton of support material under here. So what we can do is we can just flip this thing upside down. And now we can print it this way, and it'll print the 4 legs kind of sticking up from underneath. And that should be all we need. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to export it, go to STL. And I'm just going to call this center table. All right, so let me pull that in a slicer and get that sliced up and started. So I'll be right back while I clear off a printer. All right, I'm back. Just realized I didn't have chat pulled up here, so let me go pull up chat so I can pay attention to anybody that's hanging out. Sorry if I missed anything in chat. Nope, nobody in chat. Just me and myself. Maybe got one other viewer, I don't know. Go look at the screen. There you are. Alrighty. Cool. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to pull this into my slicer and actually get this thing sliced up. So let me go over to the Bamboo software. I'll get this sliced up. Let's see, I don't think I have a source for Bamboo. No capture. Oh, I do. Maybe that's a printer. Bamboo Studio. Yeah, well, this is kind of enormous right now, and it's also not displaying properly because I have to tell it I'm using Windows 10 or Windows 11. All right, so here's my slicer. We're going to go in and we're going to make a new project, and then I'm going to go open that little file that I just made. And here's our table, and that's all we need. All right, so strength-wise, I'm going to do this in really thick layers so that it'll print a little bit quicker. Don't need support materials, that's fine. All these defaults here will be okay. Strength-wise, I think I'm okay with 2 loops. I don't think we need to make it 3 loops. We don't need to make it any more dense, so I think we'll be okay there. Yeah, I think we're okay there. Speed-wise, I like to slow down the first layer. And this is going to be on a textured PEI plate, which will matter from a temperature point of view. Don't need support. And we'll let it figure out whether it needs a brim. Actually, we'll go ahead and we'll put a brim on there. Just anything typically really long that uses up a lot of table, like print surface area like this, you generally want to put a brim on. Just it'll help it adhere down a little bit more. Everything else here should be okay because we're not doing multiple colors. Yep, should be good. 34 minutes. All right. Sounds good to me. So let's go ahead and print that plate. Print it on the left printer. And we'll use that first color. This is just doing the a rainbow filament that I had in there already. Can't send a print job when the printer's updating firmware. Oh, yeah. So it's updating firmware on the printer right now. They released a new version of the firmware, so it's going to take another minute for that to update. Cool. Well, that's while we're waiting for that. Let me pull this down to here. Let's go back over to Chrome. So the other thing that I wanted to do is actually plan out my basement a little bit more. So let's go look at more designs in my gallery. See all the fun stuff that I've been tinkering with. All right, so somewhere in here, I've got my workshop layout. So I designed this 2 years ago. And basically what I did is I went through my basement and I measured all my walls, measured where my furnace was, measured everything that I had down here, and how the heck am I going to lay all this stuff out? And this is basically what I had come up with at the time. And so I've got a fridge and a freezer. This was a Bowflex machine, which I just sold, so I don't even have that anymore. But then I've got the little L-shaped desk that I'm on right now, and then a couple of workbenches. And then I've got like bookshelves and things like that, and storage units and storage cabinets and so on. And then a couch and a love seat. So I went through and I basically measured everything and down to the inch so that I could actually tinker in here, no pun intended with the name of TinkerCAD, but to actually drag my desk around and go, how do I want to put this? Do I want to rotate it at a particular orientation? Or do I want to move this arm of the desk over to this side of the desk instead? And so I can come in here and I can mirror that to flip the desk the other way if I want to tear my desk apart and put this arm on this side instead. Hey, Whip, how's it going? Good to see you. Oh, there it is. Wait, did that work? There we go. Good to see you, Whip. And so this was kind of the first draft, and this was like some of the older furniture and stuff that I had in here and how I was trying to lay things out and make sure that we still had walking space. And this is a furnace and kind of an area that I didn't want to have to build up because we've actually got cutouts in this back corner for a toilet and a shower and things like that we've never built. So that was version 1. And then I made a version 2 of this where you can actually see kind of how our basement's laid out right now. If I zoom out and zoom into this one. So this is a little bit closer to what I was thinking. So this whole area over on this right half of the basement is where we've got a couch, a chair, a love seat. We got 2 bookcases. We got a TV up on the wall and so on. We got a little table here in the middle. This is our furnace. I ended up using that space over in the corner where we had that cutout, and I've got just a couple of shelves in there. I've got these two shelves in place, and so what I've been trying to figure out is how do I want to lay out the rest of the office. This is the workbench that I currently have the two bamboo printers on, and then I've got um, my UV resin and the wash station for that. I've got a bookcase, and then I've got one bookcase for filament. I've got another bookcase that I currently have filament in, but I'm getting another bookcase in tomorrow from IKEA that I'm going to construct. And so this other one that I have filament in right now, I want to put resin in this one instead. And then these are like our egress windows out of the basement and so on. Right now, the desk that you see right behind me here in the video is actually going to be this desk over here. And right now I've got a kennel for a Riker underneath that desk. And so I debated, like, should I pull that kennel out and put it somewhere else? And then do I want to spin the desk around and face a different wall? And I could put all the nanoleaf panels up on this wall, stuff like that. So, hey, whoa, dude, good to see you. Yeah, and I've had this for years, and so every time I want to rearrange my basement, I just pull it into the CAD software and I can move stuff around. And I know this is the new workbench I'm going to build. I already know the dimensions of it, and so I can draw out a little square for it and be done with it. And then how do I want to lay out my desk with my monitor, my CPU case, and so on and so on, right? And then the washer and the freezer, and then this is an oak cabinet that my dad built me years ago, many, many years ago. Gosh, close to almost 30 years ago. And then this is the desk that's right behind me. And then these are my Mark III printers. And then these are the bamboo printers. And then this is the Voron printer that I'm still working on. It'll probably be another week before I get that one done up. Where's Whip's asking, where's the treasure hidden? I can't tell you that. It's in Colorado. That's as close as I'm going to tell you. So anyway, so I was playing around with this and I thought, well, what if I want to switch that arm on my desk? What if I want to mirror that and like lay this stuff out a little bit differently? And so this is the latest version of what I got planned out. Now the hole that I showed you that I was kind of building out earlier, that we were using to kind of like cut underneath things, I actually did that in order to build the legs on the desk and so on, just so it was a little bit cleaner layout. But I can also use these holes and say, this is 36 inches by 36 inches. Now I can kind of move this through here and go, I want to make sure that wherever I put my desk, I've got at least 3 feet of walking space between the edge of my desk and that oak cabinet, for example, so that, as my kids are, running down here and running through here to, go play their video games, it's like, oh, they're going to have to like scooch in here a little bit because we got one of those supporting posts in our basement. But the new workbench that I'm going to be building is a little bit skinny, so they might have to scoot sideways a little bit to get through this part in order to get over to the couch and so on to play their video games. But I was trying to figure out, how do I want to lay all this stuff out? So the really long workbench that I've got, the 2 bamboo printers and the UV resin printer and the wash station, I currently have those set up on this workbench over here off camera. But I'm going to pull that over on this side of where my desk is. So if I were to lay this out how I actually have my layout right now, I'm going to switch this one over to how I actually have things laid out so that you get a better idea of like what my basement's actually like. So I don't have the Voron yet. I don't have this other workbench yet. I do have this bookcase. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. My Mark IIIs, but they live elsewhere. And this is currently over here. So I can zoom in then and say, this is the desk that you see behind me over here. This workbench lives somewhere else. And I don't really have anything on here of consequence other than the monitor and the Lego and stuff like that. And then over on this workbench, this is where I've got my resin printer, my wash station, and my 2 bamboos. The Mark III printers right now are on some little tables over here on the side. And then this bookcase kind of sits over here, which means I had to move the couch out this way because this bookcase is sitting over here. This bookcase is sitting over here, and I've kind of made room over here for the next bookcase. Originally, I was going to put that other bookcase like side by side. And so this is kind of, well, actually, I need to take this and rotate this 90 degrees and pull this kind of around here-ish. Actually, let me grab all these too. Rotate all that 90 degrees. Pull this down to here. And then my CPU is actually kind of over on this side of my desk right now. This monitor's over a little bit. This monitor's over a little bit. My CPU is kind of tucked in up here. And this bookcase is currently, actually it's rotated this way right now. So this is how my basement is currently laid out. So I've got all this empty room up here that I wanted to use. And I didn't have anything on here. I've got the Voron about to be built. If I put that on the desk right behind me, it's going to take up a huge chunk of that desk. I also wanted to bring the Mark III printers out from over there. Ideally, I want to put the resin printer approximately where my desk is, because right above my desk right here is the only heater vent in my basement. And so resin does better when it's got a warmer environment. The rest of my basement stays relatively cool. It's about 60 degrees down here most of the time. But I wanted to move the Mark III printers out. I kind of want to keep the bamboo printers away from my desk if possible, because they're loud and they're very noisy and obnoxious. And so ideally, I would like to keep the bamboo printers over here. But I want to move the resin stuff closer to the vent up in the ceiling above where this is. So that's kind of the layout of my basement right now. And so what I'm thinking about doing is swapping the arm of my desk. So as I talked about, like tear my desk apart, and I've got an L-shaped desk, but this side of my desk here, where you saw me working on the electronics and the painting and stuff like that, I want to put that on this side of the desk instead. Because then what I can do is I can take the really long workbench that you can just barely see on the camera here, is I can take that workbench and put it up against this wall. This part here isn't actually a wall, it's just a storage thing. So I'd put a curtain or something in front of it so you don't see the storage shelving. And then this is where I'm going to put the Voron. The Voron will be a little bit noisy, but nowhere near as noisy as the bamboos, because it's going to be a single filament printer. And so I can tuck that away in the corner. And then I've got this whole workbench here, and I'll have the side of my desk if I want to like do some work, or if I want to get into some painting and things like that. I've got this whole workbench that I can use. The kennel that I currently have underneath this desk, so I'm going to leave that workbench where it is, so the one that you see right behind me. But right now it's just hollowed out underneath. It's completely hollowed out underneath, and I have this kennel for Riker underneath this. So if I were to take this and rotate it 90 degrees and do one of these, that's Riker's kennel that you kind of see like down here right behind me. And so ideally what I'd like to do is keep Riker's kennel close to me, because he likes being not too far away from me. And so I'd like to keep that behind my desk if possible. And then I can actually build shelves underneath this desk. I can actually put some shelves under this workbench to store things for the bamboos, such as, repair parts and tools and things like that that I need just for the bamboos. And then I can move the Mark IIIs then over next to my desk over here. I've also got a laser printer, like a regular laser, like 2-dimensional printer, and that's sitting on a little table as well. And so I'd like to bring those over. The Mark IIIs are super quiet, so I won't be bothered if they're close to my desk, but this is basically how I want to lay out my desk now. And then I've got the second cabinet coming in, and these cabinets are just going to hold filament. This cabinet over here then is going to be where I'm going to store all of my resin material, and then under this desk is where I'm going to have resin and silicone and stuff like that to get into like the resin casting and things like that. And then over here, this part of the workstation or workbench, I'm gonna set this up as painting and stuff like that. And then if I want to get into electronics and IoT stuff, I've got this whole side of my workbench or my desk that I can actually use for IoT work. Which then raised the question of, what do I do with all the nanoleaf panels? So all the nanoleaf panels that you see on the wall up here behind me are going to be on this wall behind the bamboo printers. And as much as I like looking at the bamboos, I'd much rather be looking at my nanoleaf panels. So I'm probably going to have to hang those on the wall behind me here, because I'm going to have a webcam here kind of facing that wall. And so I'll put those nanoleaf panels up on this wall behind me here. And then I've got 2 pieces of Babe Ross artwork. I may hang those on this wall, just so I've got those kind of in view. I may put one on either side of the nanoleaf lights as well, because I believe in kind of showing off other creators' work and stuff like that. So I would be totally okay putting Babe Ross's paintings on this wall, and put the nanoleaf things around it or something like that. I'll have to figure that out. The bookcase that I currently have against here, I was thinking about spinning and facing outward because it's just got like manuals and books and things like that, and have a little bit of storage here, maybe for some of the coffee supplies and stuff that I have hanging on the wall over here. What I currently have hanging on the wall here are Funko Pop figurines. So I've got some shelves that just mount onto the wall, and then it's like full of these Funko Pop things. I've got probably 60 or 70 Funko Pops that I'll probably find a new place for. But I also got to thinking, with this view, like it might be kind of neat to show the view of the workshop from time to time. And so where could I mount cameras that would sort of face other areas? And the thing that came to mind is I could put all the cameras on top of this cabinet, find a way to mount it. And so I could have one camera sort of facing out this side. I could have one camera sort of facing, sort of above me, kind of coming down from this side of me, and then have a camera actually pointed down at the desk while I'm doing painting or something like that. So I'll figure that out. But I've got plenty of extra webcams. I just have I need them close enough to my PC to actually plug in. So I've got some USB extension cords that I can run, down the length of here, run underneath my desk, or have a hub up here where they all plug into, and have the extension cord come down and plug into the into the PC or something like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But this is going to be a pretty drastic change because I've got to tear this desk apart completely. Because it's a motorized desk, I have to tear it apart completely in order to put this wing of the desk on this side of the desk instead. Yeah, because I have to move the leg. So right now I've got a leg on this side of the desk here, and that's going to have to move over to this side. The post that's under here instead is going to have to move over to this side. So the leg and the post have to swap sides, and then I have to move this whole thing over here and attach it up underneath and whatever. So, and it's not a small job. This desk is extremely heavy. This desk weighs over 200 pounds. And the last time I did it, I messed up my back and my shoulder, and that's why I needed shoulder surgery, because I was like trying to hold this thing by myself and it slipped, and I was trying to catch it because I'm right arm dominant. And so that's how I messed up my shoulder last time. I don't want to do that again. So that's so this is what I'm thinking I'm gonna do as far as layout of the new sort of workshop kind of area. And then the kids can still have their area over here. These two cabinets are going to be these two gray cabinets that are currently facing, over this way. I'm probably going to set up to be like more printer parts and just electronics and my IoT stuff. I have some of that on these benches or these shelves back here, but these shelves are just going to be more like long-term storage. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking as far as laying all this stuff out. So these two cabinets are going to be just for filament. This cabinet's going to be for resin. And that way all the resin stuff is right near all the resin stuff. And then under here, when I build the shelves underneath this new cabinet or the new tabletop that's coming in, I've got the legs for it. I just have to build that workbench. I can build two layers of shelves underneath it, and that'll be all my resin casting kind of stuff, because it's kind of scattered all over my basement right now. But that way I've got a place to put all my molds, my silicone mats. I can do all the resin pouring and stuff over there. Right now I've been doing resin pours and things like that on top of my freezer. So my freezer's all covered with dots of resin. I mean, it looks nice because, I tint the resin and it's got sparkles and stuff, but it does look a little funny. And then if I really do need some extra storage space, I could always just put a small piece of wood on top of Riker's kennel and just stack some stuff up there. But then I'd be covering up, the nanoleaf panels. So the one thing that we're going to lose by rearranging all of this are things like the BD1 and the trench run and things like that. So I'm also trying to figure out, where do I put those that I can still highlight those and people can still see those on camera? Should I stack those on top of Riker's kennel? Because I'd still like to have like this thing full of nanoleaf panels. I still want to hang up the dark saber, things like that. I could still do that on this wall. I just have to be a little more creative with like how I want to hang the stuff up or how I want to display it. The other idea would be to put the stuff on this wall right here, um, or like put the Funko Pops over here and have the Lego and stuff over here. But some way that, as we're building these things out, folks can actually see them. So when you do the pew pew command, that you'll be able to see the trench run. Because I still want to like have a camera on these things that when you do the pew pew command, it'll like pull up a little, like it'll activate that camera so you can actually see, the trench run or the BD1 or both of them together or something. I don't know, and then be able to activate the lights on them. So yeah, so it was fun trying to plan that stuff out. That's basically how I've been spending my last couple of evenings. Is like, how do I want to plan this out and move things around? It's like, well, I'm not sure I like that layout. Let me try it this way. Let me try it that way. If I keep my desk the way it is, this layout doesn't work. Because keeping my desk with the arm the way that it is. Let me zoom out and go back over to this one here. It makes it a lot harder to try to maintain that layout. Like I could move my desk and all of this stuff. I could move all of this out to here, like tuck that away in that little alcove kind of thing, and then move that bookcase out of the way. But then where do I put other stuff? Like, do I put the new workbench here? Because I don't want to have the resin right next to me because the resin is kind of smelly and it gives me a headache if I'm around it too much. So I don't want that to be right next to my desk. I also don't want the bamboo printers right next to my desk. I could put the Mark III printers up here. They're nice and quiet. That wouldn't bug me at all. Um, but then I still want a place that I can do painting and so on. And so that's why I was trying to think, like, if I bring the other tables that the Mark IIIs are on, they're currently over here by the furnace. Like I could maybe stack those tables out here maybe and just make this a little bit longer here for the Mark IIIs, and I'd still have this table for doing painting or something. I don't know. Still playing around with ideas there. Hey, Darth Garland, good to see you. Just working on reorganizing my basement a little bit. Were the Snap Together Star Wars kits you're going to give away resin printed? No, they were actually done on FDM printers. So they were done on the Bamboos and the Mark IIIs. So that's just regular filament type of things. I don't think those Snap kits would work very well in resin because resin's really brittle. And so like just trying to like snap the parts together, it might actually break. And then it's, you can glue it back together, but it's not going to look as nice. So yeah, I was just doing those in filament plastic. I like the use of TinkerCAD. Yeah, I noticed. I think Pez if anybody here follows Pez I think Liz actually used something like TinkerCAD to kind of plan out her place. I've been using this kind of layout now for a little over 2 years. Right before the pandemic, I actually started like planning this out and measuring out my walls. So the original version of this is over 2 years old here on TinkerCAD. Just as far as like where do I want to put my couch and things like that, and how I want to rearrange things. So that was kind of how. So I was just showing people, Darth Golem, like how my basement is currently laid out. Like I've got this desk kind of right here, and so this workbench behind me is the one that you see behind me. This wall that you see behind me is this wall behind that workbench. This is where I've got all the nano leaf panels and things like that. And then I'm building another workbench. And basically what prompted all of this is, where do I put the new workbench? Do I put the new workbench this way and tuck it in back here? Or do I move the big, like the really long workbench, back in here and put the new workbench, over here? But then every time I want to do some painting or something, I got to get up from my desk and walk all the way around here and, just to come over to this workbench to do any work. And it would be a little bit harder to have cameras and stuff because, it's not going to reach, across here without tripping over stuff or having to run really long USB wires around the edge of the wall. It wasn't going to work out very well. Or without needing a second computer to run the webcams, run OBS on that, to be able to pull in as a web source over here. Plus, I would need a monitor over here to keep an eye on chat and things like that. It was not going to work out very well. So that's why I started kind of planning it out. Like, what if I did it like this instead? So now I can work on IoT stuff here on the green mat. I've got this whole table here. I can just turn and like work on painting, and I can still have cameras and things like that. I'm still going to need another monitor, on the desk over here because this isn't a solid wall. I can't mount anything on this. It's just a storage shelf that I'm going to like put a curtain or something in front of. So I can't really mount anything on that, but I will need something over here to like keep an eye on chat if I'm working over here. Um, but I've got plenty of HDMI and HDMI extensions, so that'll reach over there, no problem. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm gonna lose the tech interview guide screen unless I mount that, on top of Riker's kennel over here, or mount that on the wall with the nano leaf or something like that. I'll have to figure that out. I don't know how important it is that I have the TV with the logos and stuff on there anymore. It's nice to have when I'm doing stuff for work. I can put the Postman logo on there, and so people can kind of see like, oh, it's a Postman live stream, or Ian's doing his own personal live stream, stuff like that. Hey, RC, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out in the live stream this morning with the 3D printing stuff. She says, my entire apartment has been laid out to within 1-inch accuracy since 2015. Nice. Use Paint Net to lay it out, each pixel being 1 inch. So I basically did the same thing here in TinkerCAD, where 1 millimeter is 1 inch. And so I measured all this stuff out pretty much down to the inch, plus a little bit of give on either side. So if I put things right next to each other in TinkerCAD, I know that they're really going to be like an inch or so apart. My family thought I was insane until I brought furniture in and everything fit perfectly. Yeah. I mean, I like planning this stuff out. So like going in and just drawing out the desk, and this is where Riker's kennel is going to be and stuff like that. And then drawing, what was important for me was using this, where I can say, okay, this is 3 feet square, and just making sure that I've got 3 feet of walking space between here and here. This other one is 30 inches, which is a typical like a much smaller sort of door. So I know that my kids are going to fit between that workbench and that support post, basically, this and the beam and so on in the basement. It'll be a bit of a tight squeeze, but they've been doing it for a while now, so it's not that big a deal. But that's why I use those whole objects, just to make sure that there's enough room to kind of walk around. So, hello, how's it going? So this is my other one. He's doing a science experiment on the digits of pi. So we're doing all kinds of interesting things with looking at the first 10 billion digits of pi and trying to find like 2-digit numbers and 3-digit numbers, and what were we up to, 6 and 7-digit numbers? Yeah, trying to see how many of those actually exist in pi. I actually found my phone number in pi. Somewhere within the first 10 billion digits, it actually found my phone number. So I've been helping him with the Python software on his, and then the other kid is doing a science project with plants and oxygen and CO2 levels. Thing never did print. Oh, I didn't actually start that other thing to print. Like, why didn't that thing print yet? Should have been done by now. It was only a 30-minute print. All right, so we'll get that sent over to the Bamboo, and then we'll go from there. If I come over to the Bamboo and I say go live, and we might actually just see the Bamboo show up in a window up here above me. See whether that's actually going to work or not. But yeah, RC, it was nice having you in chat. I was kind of hoping you were going to go over to Twitch and start chatting on Twitch so I could give stuff away to you, but it ended up working out okay. So, for the human boundary box, I was going to say, packed my CR30, measured how wide it was. The CR30 is is that the belt printer? I debated one of those, but I decided not to get one of those. Yeah. Hey, Aaron F. Geared, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Always good to see folks in chat. We're just playing around with TinkerCAD a little bit and planning out how I'm going to lay out the new basement. So, what do you think of new layout?
Oh, I like that.
So this is the new workbench that I'm going to build. So the tabletop for this is coming in from IKEA tomorrow. So I'm going to keep the resin over there. That cabinet I'm going to swap down to the other end. but this table won't be as long as that one, and so we'll be able to bring that couch back this way a little bit. And then I'm going to put all the resin stuff on here, and this will have shelves underneath it for resin and casting. I'm going to put the bamboos in the corner right behind me here, so it won't be as noisy over there for you guys. I'm going to move this side of the desk over to this side of the desk instead, and then rotate and shove it that way a little bit. So this is where the Bowflex used to be, over here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take Wrecker's Kennel out of here, and I'm going to put it in the corner over there. And then I'm going to bring the Mark IIIs over here, so they'll be right in the middle of the room. This is the laser printer. And then the Voron is going to go on, so I'm going to bring that long desk, and it's going to run against the shelf, or the storage shelf over there. And I'm going to put the Voron in the corner over there. So the printers will be nicely spaced out, and I'm going to have all this room for painting and stuff. I'll have this whole area for electronics and IoT.
What's this?
This is the white bookshelf that I've got over here right now. So, but I'm going to face it facing kind of that hallway kind of thing, because I don't need to necessarily see stuff on there. So, and then I'm thinking I'll probably put some cameras on top of here just to kind of watch the room. So I'll have one pointing down at the desk to watch me paint, and I'll have one over here that I can see all the printers and stuff like that running, stuff like that. So, but this is also going to require me to take those shelves and shove them down that way, like 2 feet, because we got a lot of room in between all those shelves right now. So I'm going to like start shoving stuff down that way once we start cleaning up the basement a bit more. So. Good times, good times. I saw a video of somebody mounting a handful of CR30s. Yeah, I saw those like mounted on the wall, so as it would print and the belt would run, it would just fall off the bottom into a box. That was really clever. I thought that was a really, really neat idea. I just don't want to give Creality any more of my money. Yeah, I've got kind of a bone to pick with Creality as a company. Yeah, their printers are good quality, but I'm not going to give them any more of my money. So that's just me. So that was that, and then we also worked on the new platform for the CO2 sensor for the other kiddo upstairs.
Yep.
So that's printing right now. That'll take about a half hour to print, and then probably going to print 2 of them. Actually, I should have put 2 of them on the print bed. Hasn't started printing yet. I'm going to cancel it and start 2 of them. To arrange and slice. 1 hour and 1 minute.
No. An hour.
Yep.
That's
Instead
2 times 30.
2 times half.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah, that's annoying.
What was that?
The print bed's already at the bottom of the printer, and it's trying to push it all the way down just to figure out where the print bed is. And so it's just the motors running and slipping, trying to get the print bed further down. It's okay. You get used to it after a while. It's like, what's that noise? Oh yeah, it's just the printer being dumb. As smart as that printer is, it's not very intelligent sometimes. So.
Anyway, I finished moving the shelf and getting the stuff off my wall.
Okay.
And I have an idea. So I'm thinking.
Excuse me a minute, folks.
So I'm thinking to keep this shelf in that telescope area and then discard it once everything's off, but then build the shelf while it's still there, and then put everything from on that onto the black
The
shelf,
new shelf.
and then discard it.
That's fine. I mean, if you can move it with everything on it without it falling all over the place, that's fine. But it's hollow on both sides, right? It doesn't have like a back wall on it.
It does.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you move it, stuff's not necessarily going to fall out. Can you move it by yourself safely?
Yeah, I already did.
You already did. All right. That's fine. Elegoo Neptune 3 is pretty much a direct clone of an Ender 3. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at back at chat. They steal from creators. So yeah, I mean that was the big part. The whole Creality Cloud, where they were like taking models and just copying them into the Creality Cloud and not giving people attribution. And then they were taking commercial models and putting them out on SD cards and shipping those with printers, and they weren't even apologizing for it. Like it was just, yeah. So what do you want? and that whole attitude just really soured me to them as a company. So yeah, I won't give them any more money. I thought about getting the like one of those scanners, because Creality makes a really cheap 3D scanner, but I'm not going to give them any more of my money. I'm going to wait for someone else to come out with like a $300 or $400 scanner product and go from that. Don't want anything with V wheels. I mean, I've had a V wheel style printer, and they work fine. I mean, sometimes the wheels go a little flat, so I think as long as you're maintaining the printer, I haven't had a problem with them. Because I have owned 2 or 3 Creality printers. I had the CR6 and the CR10 Mini, maybe just 2 of them, and they were good. They were fine machines. They were a little slow, especially the CR10 Mini. It was like horribly slow. They were sued over the scanner. I didn't know that. I have one with V wheels. It's my least favorite. So yeah, so I'm hoping once all this stuff kind of gets settled in and sort of rearranged and so on, that I can actually start working on like commercial sort of use of these printers and so on. And so a little over a year ago, I registered an LLC. So I've actually got like a business license now. And so Tech Interview Guide is going to be like a division under that, and that's going to be more the philanthropic side of like giving money away for charities and stuff like that. But a lot of the consulting stuff that I do on the side, like mock interviews with Interviewing IO and Meet a Pro and so on, that's all going to now come through iandouglas.com LLC. And then I'm going to be doing the 3D printing, and I want to get into like selling 3D prints and doing more along those lines. Once I get the Voron, I'm going to have like a really nice, hopefully stable, fast, large format machine. If I want to get into like printing cosplay armor for people, stuff like that. And then also getting into finishing things, which brings me to the package that I want to open. So I got a package, and I'm going to open it. I've been asking for this for Christmas for 2 years. No one ever bought it for me, so I bought it for me. Oh, this box is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. Don't tell me it's used. The box was opened, so I'm hoping it's not used. So far it looks okay. Nope, not used. Perfectly sealed. All right. So we have, that's just a power supply for it. So we have a magic box with a button and a little port on the side. And it comes with lots of little accessories and such. But the main accessory I want to get into, if I can actually get into the thing. Come on. Nice fake leather box they got going on. There it is. So I wanted to learn how to airbrush. So I bought a very inexpensive airbrush kit. I was actually watching it online for a while, and it's got a tankless compressor. So it's just a little electronic compressor. So it's not like one of those huge big tanks that make a ton of noise. Apparently this is supposed to be really, really quiet. But I wanted to get into airbrushing. I wanted to play with that a little bit. So I bought one. It's not super high end. And honestly, part of me worried a little bit about buying something too inexpensive, because I tried teaching myself guitar years and years ago, and it didn't go well because I bought a really cheap guitar. And when you buy a really cheap guitar or cheap anything, if it doesn't work out, you get discouraged and then you don't want to do that thing anymore. But I also didn't want to go spend like $10,000 on a guitar. So I bought like a $50 guitar just to see if I was going to like playing guitar. And if I didn't like playing guitar, I'm only out $50 or whatever. But it was such a cheap, lousy guitar. I was literally cutting my fingers on the strings. Like the strings were bad. Like the nut on the end had the strings like really far away from the neck, and so you really got to push these things down to build up the calluses. And I was literally cutting my fingers. And I type for a living. I got to take care of my hands, and so I'm like, playing guitar sucks. And everybody I talked to, as soon as I got rid of the guitar, everybody I talked to said, "Why didn't you just buy an electric guitar? It would have been a lot easier to learn how to play. Would have been a little, lot lighter, all that kind of stuff, thinner, all the, of course you get all the advice after the fact." And so when I wanted to get an airbrush kit, I didn't want to buy like a $500 airbrush kit and find out I didn't like it. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to buy like $100 kit. And then the price started coming down, kept coming down, kept coming down. And I use the Honey plugin in my browser, and now every time I go visit a product page for anything, they automatically bookmark it. And I got an email one day, and they're like, "Hey, that thing that you looked at just dropped in price by like another $20." So this thing was only like $50 on Amazon. I'm like, I'll buy it for $50. It's like $100 kit for $50, and it had really good reviews as like a very basic entry level kind of airbrush kit. So that's part of why I want to set up. I can go back and find my browser over here. So setting up this desk over here next to setting up this other workbench right next to my desk. This is where I want to do all my post processing, so sanding and painting and stuff like that. And that was also why I turned this bookshelf around. That the opening of the bookshelf wasn't going to be facing the desk, because I want to build like a little spray booth or something in here. Or I might move the Voron up here and put the little spray booth down here in the corner where it's not going to like spray onto my PC and stuff like that. I might keep it over here in this corner. But that way I've got a spot just to do my painting and finishing and stuff like that. So I play guitar in my teens. The only song I remember how to play is the riff from Beat It. That's pretty cool though. You heard issues about the tankless compressor. I mean, I've also got a small air compressor, like a small air compressor. It's only about this big. Well, maybe about this big, if I need to. But I wanted to try the tankless one just because it was supposed to be not loud. But I'm also not looking to do professional work. Like, I'm not going to be airbrushing for a living. It's just something I wanted to try out and see if I like, and see if I can get in with enough detail, especially with my eyesight. And I bought like a mounted magnifying glass for my desk so I can get in and do like really fine painting and stuff like that. Um, I'm not necessarily looking to airbrush things to sell. It was just something that I wanted to learn. It's something that I've kind of had my eye on since I was in college. Um, I put myself through college by working retail clothing, and right outside of the clothing store, there was a guy who was actually doing professional airbrushing, and he would do everything from like, painting jackets to signs to portraits. Like he would actually airbrush, portraits of people, to like gas tanks of motorcycles, all kinds of stuff. Like this guy would just airbrush the heck out of everything, and it always looked really, really nice. And I was never gutsy enough to ask him if he could show me how to airbrush, or like I know that there's like single action and dual action airbrushes, and this one's a dual action. So I thought, it'll be good to kind of keep the dexterity in the fingers going, and stuff like that, for like how to hold the thing and how to like, push the thing down and pull it back to get air and stuff like that. I thought that'd be interesting to kind of learn. I like constantly learning things, and I also thought, what, it's a creative thing to go learn. It's something new to kind of stretch myself a little bit. So that was that, and then so the system that I used to run to have the stuff show up on the TV here, I reinstalled Linux on that. I used to run Fedora Linux, and I decided to go back to Ubuntu. For me, it's a little bit easier to maintain, set up, and things like that. It's a little bit easier. So the chatbot is now running on that machine instead of my local Windows machine, so I don't have to worry about starting that up every time I reboot my Windows box. And so hopefully it's going to be a little more stable over there, although my internet connection here at home has been a little bit unstable. Every time it kicks offline, my bot stops working. I got to come back in and restart my bot anyway, but ultimately I'll probably put it on a DigitalOcean instance that I have other chatbots running. But that was another thing that I was thinking about doing too, is if other streamers want a custom chatbot or like a giveaway bot or things like that. If anybody here watches Loyal Moses, I wrote a little custom chatbot for him that, when everybody that, at least in our communities, respective communities that does a giveaway, we're always like, say something in chat, say something in chat. But then you've got to watch chat really, really carefully. So I wrote a chatbot where he just had to hook up like a exclamation point winner, and it does the big winner thing across the screen. I have a chatbot now watching, like when Stream Elements picks somebody for a giveaway, my chatbot watches for the first thing that person says and then sends the winner command in chat so that his thing will show up as winner. So like trying to find little integrations like that to help people out, just to make it a little bit easier. Like, oh, okay, that person actually did say something in chat. And so I want to make that kind of available to people, probably for free for the first little while, is just help people out with chatbots. So again, something else that I want to do is like iandouglas.com. And I want to go in and rebuild that whole website for all the different like consulting services that I do, and kind of branch off to like tech interview guide and the mock interviews, and as well as like getting into the 3D printed stuff. So we'll see how all that goes over the next 6 months or so. See what else is going on. I had a chat today with someone who got let go from their job, and they were asking me like, hey, when you were doing your job hunt a year ago, you were trying to figure out like, do you want to do development? Do you want to do management? Do you want to do DevRel? And this person is basically saying, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I can do this kind of work, I can do this kind of work, I can do this kind of work. Like how should I position myself? And the more we talked, the more I realized like this person really likes being involved in doing a lot of different kinds of things. And they were also debating getting back into startups. And I said, well, why not see if you can find like meetups or incubators in your area, and see if you can get in contact with a number of these startups and talk to them about like doing some consulting work to get their stuff off the ground, whether it's like product marketing or, blogging or videos or video production, like whatever it is they need, you've got those skills. So why not like reach out to an incubator and see if you can get involved with a number of startups and go into freelance work. And if they want to hire you full time, then that's up to you. But I told him, based on the skills and what you want to be doing, it sounds like that might be more up this person's alley than like trying to get a full time job. So it was a really good chat. It's always discouraging when you hear somebody losing their job, um, but what I was basically trying to tell this person is like, you have value that you bring to a company. You just have to figure out how you want to position that value by letting them know what you're capable of doing, but not in a way of saying like, oh, I can do all the things, but actually being able to demonstrate like, these are the things that I actually know how to do. And being of value to a company. Like how do you convey that to a company when you're trying to apply for a job? And so the more we talked, the more I realized like, you know what, this person probably just needs to just go into freelance work and just be a freelance or consultant, to go in and like help companies kind of get up and started and get on track and whatever, and then go from there. So we'll see where that takes them over the next little while. So. Let's see what else is going on lately. Teaching a class next week. Actually, I've got something going on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. So Wednesday, I'm teaching a class for Postman. Thursday, I'm part of another live stream, but I'm going to be more support than actively involved. And then Friday, I'm teaching a class back at the school where I used to teach. I do a recurring class on Postman, so I'll be doing that. But I'm really hoping that class is going to turn into more of a Q&A session as opposed to like a demo walkthrough. But I've also got 4 talks already lined up at conferences one of them's a meetup, 3 of them are conferences between now and the end of March. So February and March are also going to be pretty busy for me as well. So depending on when I'm traveling and so on, there may be a couple of days where I don't stream. But Sunday, as far as I know, I'm keeping Sundays on track to always be the interview prep stream. But the Thursday night one may change a little bit, and I may not be able to do too many Tuesdays. But we'll kind of see how things go. I may cancel a stream from time to time while I'm like rearranging the basement, but I'm hoping that I can kind of keep everything going as we build stuff out and move things around and things like that. I'm hoping that it won't be too disruptive. It'll probably take me a whole day just to tear this desk apart and rebuild the desk and put everything back. That's probably going to take a whole day just in and of itself, much less like move things around the basement. So we'll have to see how that goes. I got to build the other workbench first. Shoot, I'm gonna have to, because I need to move that workbench over here first. So yeah, I got a lot of moving around to do. My back's gonna be sore for a while, but it'll be good once everything gets sorted out and everything. I think it'll be all right. So I did a live stream this morning for work where I was live streaming my bamboo printers and showing these little astronaut figurines that I was printing. So I was printing more of these figurines, and we actually gave them away on the live stream. So that was pretty entertaining. And then what else? I think I already showed this one off. But this is the tentacle treasure chest that I've been showing off on Twitter lately. So this is Clockspring is the designer, and this thing came out really, really nice. So 8-color print. It was my first 8-color print. Came out pretty nice. There's a little bit of stringing here and there, but the quality of it came out really, really nice. And I'm probably going to give this away on this stream. I don't know when, but we'll see. I'm really, really close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So part of me is thinking I might do this as a giveaway when I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I might actually like stream to both Twitch and YouTube and see if I can get some activity going there. And I'll probably give that away when I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So what else have I got going on? Oh, I started building out a mechanism for my stream decks. The prototyping of it went pretty good. I can show you a little bit of what I did here. Also doing it in TinkerCAD because that's how I roll. The prototyping went pretty good. Some of the pieces snapped because I was doing them in draft mode with only 2 walls and barely any infill. But I've got a Stream Deck XL, and I've got 2 of these smaller Stream Decks, and I wanted to mount them on some linear rails. So I've got, I don't have it. Oh yeah, I do have it on the desk. So a couple of years ago, I took one of my Mark III printers, my Prusa Mark IIIs, and I actually converted it over to a bare frame, which is basically a different aluminum extrusion of a frame. And so I ended up with all these leftover parts that came from the Prusa. And I'm like, well, I want to use these for something. And so I had 2 of these smaller pieces, and I've got 2 pieces that are a little bit longer. And I thought, well, what if I can join them together on like a 15-degree angle? So, sitting on the desk, it's at kind of a 15-degree angle, and I can put the XL in that corner and then put the 2 smaller Stream Decks on the outside. And so I was basically trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I make all these mounts? And so this was a mount from another designer where you've got like the little rail underneath it that'll actually fit into the track of the extrusion. You can kind of see that sort of underneath the part here, where mine just ended up being flat and they worked out fine. But for the pieces that are going to mount the XL, I couldn't mount on just a single set of these brackets. It wasn't strong enough. The Stream Deck XL was heavy enough that when I put one of these mounts on here, it just snapped off completely. And so, but again, it was in draft mode. I would typically do more like a 40% infill and like 3 or 4 walls just to make it really rigid. But it snapped in a hurry. So part of me got thinking, well, maybe I need to put a mount on each side of it. And then how do I twist these things then when they're actually on the rail? And so I twisted these at 15-degree angles. But then I realized that if the bars are at a 15-degree angle, these things don't need to twist at a 15-degree angle. They need to twist half of the angle the actual bars are. So the bars are 15 degrees apart, and so these things need to tilt at like 7.5 degrees each in order to be straight on the back of the mount for the Stream Deck XL. So I got a little bit of work to do left on these. But originally, what I had is I had two of these things mashed together like this for my smaller Stream Decks, and then I basically printed this little plate with techinterview.guide on it, and it was actually found a purple filament from Printed Solid that was really close to the purple that I use on the website. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. And so I custom made a plate for that. But then I realized, well, I don't have a printer big enough, even with the Voron. I'm not going to have a printer big enough to print something that can also include the XL or to put the XL in the middle. And I didn't think that I wanted them all straight. I wanted it kind of curved in front of me a little bit because it does kind of take up a lot of desk space. So I was basically going through and planning out like how I want to lay those things out. So I need to go in and I need to tweak these to only be 7.5 degrees instead of 15 degrees. But it'll be a pretty easy fix. I can just come in here, pick this top part, and just spin it back minus 7.5 degrees. And then that's exactly where I need it to be. And these holes here are basically just to chop off anything that tends to overhang. But if I only twist it 7.5 degrees, there's no overhang on there. That was the little platform thing kind of building up is just for extra stability. It actually prints all nice and solid in there. But like I said, I did it in draft mode, and so in draft mode, it didn't handle it very well. Oops, put you back, and then this is one thing I don't like about TinkerCAD is they don't make it very easy to see these numbers if you're not like perfectly laid out here, or like zoomed out. So I want to twist that, but that's going to go to 7.5 degrees. But then I also had problems like lining up the holes with the hinges and things like that because I wanted a way to be able to like tilt the things back, so that I could kind of tilt them so they're all kind of the same and things like that, and then I can just tighten up a screw and they'll hold in place. So it was fun putting that stuff together. Hey, Just Joe, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Purple Rain? No, I forget what they actually called the filament. I don't think it was Purple Rain. I'd have to go find it now, but no, it's just it's a really nice dark lavender. And when I printed this, I did it on a smooth plate on the Prusa, so it came out nice and shiny on the front. And I did it with I did it on a Mark III, so the best I could do was a color shift, so the edge of it has purple and white. But I wanted to get the white font in there. And then I thought, well, now I got the bamboo, I can actually just put the lettering on there, and it'll actually be flush with the top of the plate. And then I thought, well, I want an extra Stream Deck for like extra cameras and views and things like that without having to hit buttons to go through pages of things on the Stream Deck. So I just bought a used Stream Deck XL off of eBay. So that worked out pretty good. So I just need to go back and reprint some of these parts in a stronger filament. I'll probably use ASA for printing these for the final part. I did them in like Polyterra, just in draft mode, because Polyterra is a really inexpensive filament that prints well, but it's really brittle. Like literally, I put the Stream Deck on there on a single set of these hinges, and it just completely snapped off just because it's so heavy. But the neat thing about it is the XL actually has a magnetic back on it. And so part of what I did was make sure that this back plate had holes for the magnets. So I started with a design that somebody else made and basically rebuilt their model a little bit. So I had to kind of tweak it and fine tune it a little bit and then figure out, okay, where do I actually want to put these mounts on here? I need a hole for the cable, things like that. So I'm just trying to figure out if this is exactly where I want those screw mounts to be. Or if I need them like sort of to be up a little bit more so that the whole thing kind of comes down closer to the desk. I'm not really sure yet. So still a little bit in prototype mode on that. And then this is the assembly. These parts here are basically the assembly to tilt those pieces at a 45-degree angle. So one of each of these will go into the end of one of the longer extrusions. And then what I did is when I had these propped up, I twisted those at a 15-degree angle. So you can see these things aren't perpendicular, like perfectly perpendicular to the bed. They're kind of off on a bit of a skewed angle. So when those are lined up on the desk, I can put these little bars underneath them and gloop them in, and it'll hold that at exactly that 15-degree angle. So, and it gave me a little bit of flexibility that, you know, if I do need to like twist it a couple of degrees, it still gives me a little bit of flexibility for that. Heavier than expected. Yeah, it was. Well, again, I only did these with like 2 perimeters and like 5% grid infill, so it was pretty weak. But the Polyterra filament is not a very strong filament. It's a very lightweight filament. It's not like the Poly Light, which is even lighter, but it's not as strong as like a PLA Plus or anything like that. So the Polyterra was actually I won't say brittle, but it's a very soft filament compared to others. And then these are just the little ends that I put on here. Originally, I was going to build a little T junction with this, where on these smaller extrusions, well, on the end of the longer extrusion, I wanted to build a piece that kind of went this way on it, and then have a way to bolt that into the side of the smaller extrusion. So this would end up being the leg on each side and give it lots of stability. And then I realized that was kind of overkill. I didn't really need something this big just for that. But I may repurpose this depending on how I want to lay out the desks and so on. I may bring one of the small stream decks and just plug it into this and just attach to this with the legs on each side and just have that on the other desk. But again, that's kind of overkill. I could probably just go with one of these trays that I was originally. This was someone else's design on printables that I was kind of adapting to push together. So this is basically the original base that I had. And so I basically put 2 of those things together, and it had the cool hexagon thing on the end. You know, you see my background. I'm all into the hexagons, and so this design really caught my eye. And so I put the 2 of them together, and the stream decks fit in here perfectly. And then I just print a little faceplate, and I also did this in the same purple. And then this just literally just sat on top. It didn't snap in or anything like that. But that was fun to get into. But I'm starting to hang on to these old prints now. So once I do hook up the airbrush, I can practice like painting on this kind of stuff, and you know, not just paper that I can actually like spray onto actual PLA or PTG or whatever, and see how well the paint sticks or what kind of paint sticks better and stuff like that. So. Making sure things fit, then designing a final design and cutting them up, generate an OpenSCAD. Yeah, I've used OpenSCAD, and OpenSCAD's fantastic. I used to use it with command line tools. I used to make these little popsicle stick looking things with names on them for our students. So when we were actually in a classroom, I could draw a popsicle stick with their name on it and ask them a question. And that way it was meant to be a little more random. And so this is actually what they looked like. It was just a little popsicle stick with their name on it. And we would just draw these out of a cup. And so, you know, students knew they had to pay attention in class, because you know, any of the instructors could just randomly pick these name sticks, you know, and they were going to get called on. So it kind of helped with the engagement in class of, you know, pay attention. You wouldn't think you'd have to do that with adults, but it was a good way just to keep them engaged. But we ended up kind of not using them over after a while. But it was fun to do that. And so what I would do in OpenSCAD is I had a text file of all the students' names, and then I had a script that would basically push that into OpenSCAD, make the STL, export the XTL, and then I could just pull all these STLs into the slicer and put them, you know, arrange them on the print bed and print them out. And it was all kind of automatic for that. So it was really neat. I like OpenSCAD. For this kind of stuff, it would be nice to use OpenSCAD to get, you know, a little bit closer on the engineering side, but you know, I'm not looking to sell this as a design, I've actually got some of these 3030 extrusion parts and legs and so on that I built. I've actually put them up on printables. Um, but I'm always happy to take feedback from people like, oh, this part's too big or this part's too small. Like I'm happy to take that kind of feedback, but I'm not looking to design parts like this as a commercial effort by any means. You missed the part 1 of that tweet message. Not sure what you mean, RC. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a busy day at work. And then IKEA is showing up sometime during the day. And I'm going to put some furniture together with the kiddos when they get home from school. Got them new bookcases for their room, another bookcase for down here for filament, plus the new tabletop for the new workbench. So read the chat before making sure things fit message. I got my test fits. I'm designing the floor piece for my workshop. Deep Purple does sound like the name of that filament, yeah. Yeah, no, I did read that message, RC. I read part of it. I just didn't read the whole message out loud. But yeah, I did see that. That's why I was also talking about OpenSCAD. I was actually trying to do some of it in Fusion 360, and I get really frustrated with Fusion 360. It's way overkill for the kind of stuff that I need to do, but it's a really good tool. I've used it in the past for making like very complex, like more engineering level stuff. But for just the little things that I want to kind of do around here, I don't need something as heavy as Fusion 360. I can do 95% of that work in TinkerCAD and fake my way through the other 5%. So, hey, Blacksmith Pop, good to see you. Yeah, making sure the test fit, or the test part fits, and then make the final part. Like, I think I've actually got most of them in the bin now, but yeah, I printed like dozens of these things, all different sizes and so on, just to make sure things were going to fit. And then they all fit, and I started mounting it just to make sure that they were going to mount okay. And the two smaller Stream Decks are holding up fine, even with just the lighter prototype prints that I made. And like screwing them in, they're holding in place and they're doing great. But the XL was just too heavy, and it just snapped off the single base. So that's why I wanted to do the two base. And then I realized that the angle that I was rotating those parts at 15 degrees wasn't right. So that's why I wanted to go back in and redesign those real quick. So you do everything in Fusion? Well, if you want to design some stuff for me in Fusion, I'll send you my TinkerCAD things. But like even trying to pull parts from TinkerCAD into Fusion as a mesh, like importing a mesh into Fusion 360. Because originally someone had designed an extrusion that would actually like completely friction fit into the end of the 3030 or 2020 even, where it was exactly like the shape of all of the inside pieces and the center pin and the whole bit, and it was supposed to slide in there exactly perfect. And the way that this person had designed it was for two of these extrusions to butt up end to end. And I thought, well, I want to make that twist at that 15-degree angle. And so I pulled it into TinkerCAD, I cut it in half, and then I wanted to pull that into Fusion 360 because Fusion 360, you can rotate things against another part. And so I swung it out to be that 15-degree angle, but then I couldn't figure out how to fill in the triangle. Like Fusion 360 was just really aggravating for like, I just want to draw a line from this corner to this corner and have it fill it in for me. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I brought it all back into TinkerCAD and put down a couple of blocks just to fill in the space. And I was done in like 5 minutes. But I probably futzed around in Fusion 360 for the better part of half an hour trying to figure that out. and I just got super frustrated with it and gave up on Fusion 360. So I might get back to it someday, but right now it's not really a priority for me. So anyway, some of these parts are up on printables. If anybody wants to check it out and give me some feedback, I'm always up for feedback on this stuff. You're kind of turning the mesh side of Fusion into Mesh Mixer. Oh, okay. I think I used Mesh Mixer once to repair a model. But wow, it's been a while since I've used Mesh Mixer as well. I thought about getting into Blender too because I love Python. You can do a lot of cool plugins and stuff in Python and Blender. Let's see, how's that print doing? Oh, it didn't make it bigger. Yeah, it's printing okay. I've definitely got some ringing going on that bamboo. Need to go in and like tighten the belts and stuff a little bit. Not a huge concern, but something I'm definitely gonna have to take a look at some point. But yeah, that should. How long have we got to go on those? Oh, it's almost halfway through. So cool deal, cool deal. Now suddenly that is gigantic. So yeah, so like I said, the downside to oops, that's not what I want to move. The downside to moving all the stuff around the basement is that I'm gonna lose like the display of some of these things. So I need to figure out like once we get all of that stuff kind of moved around, settled around, like how do I want to continue to have this stuff somewhere that everybody can see it? Or you do the pew pew command, it'll activate a camera next to the Lego things or something like that. I gotta figure that one out yet. Not the most pressing priority to have all this stuff, showing in the background. My priority is like get the workshop in a more usable sort of layout, and then get a contractor in here and help me figure out how to insulate it because it's freaking freezing down here all the time. Like the temperature thing says it's 64 degrees down here. This measures 64. My fingers are 75. Like it's cold down here. Right? I'm not lying, right? My hands are cold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your hands are nice and warm. Come here, give me that neck. He has a very warm neck. This is why you have kids. Just kidding. Oh, you want to come say hi to everybody? All right.
Hello.
Doggo. Yes, it's a doggo. Come here, it's a doggo. Yeah, it's a puppers. Oh, it's a puppy. All right, down. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What else is going on? So we got science fair homework that we got to do. So I think we'll do some of that for a little bit, and then what else? Why is all my audio muted? Is that why I don't hear my own music? There we go. Wondered why I couldn't even hear my own background music. Um, let's see what's going on. What else is going on? Surface temp and air temp are two different things. Yeah, but it's cold down here like all the time. I mean, it's great in the summertime. Everybody comes down to the basement and hangs out in the basement during the summertime. But during the wintertime, like nobody wants to be in the basement. But this is where all my stuff is, so I have to be down in the basement. But thank goodness for laptops. I can work in warmer parts of the house if I need to. So, cool. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. I don't know if I've ever rated into Polymaker. Oh, Rufio's online. Haven't seen Rufio in a minute. Big Channel's on. Captain Canada's on. Oh, Captain Canada's back doing R2D2. I don't think we've ever raided into Polymaker. Let's go right over there and say hi. Looks like he's also doing some kind of 3D design of some sort too. So yeah, we'll go right over to Polymaker and call it a night over here. We'll catch y'all on Sunday for sure. And let's go right over to Polymaker 3D. Wait, is that gonna work? There we go. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for feedback on the 3D layouts and stuff like that. We'll definitely keep everybody uh, posted as far as like interrupting streams while I'm rebuilding everything down here. But we'll go hang out on Polymaker, and yeah, we'll chat with y'all later on. Cheers.